Hi, I'm meteorologist Caroline Brown. We are hopping on air because a new tornado warning has just been issued. Now, this is for northeast Liberty County, a radar indicated tornado warning. You can see it right here behind me. This cell quickly moving to the northeast at 15 miles per hour, and it's been showing signs of strengthening. Now, there are several lightning strikes within this, but I want to show you exactly why the National Weather Service has gone ahead and issued this tornado warning from now through the next 15 minutes. If we flip the radar over to velocity, this is going to show the storm's movement relative to the storm. And you can see we've got the winds relative to the storm. This is that rotation we're watching very close. So when we're talking about this rotation, red would be winds going away from our radar. Green is winds going towards. So this is the area that we're most concerned about. I'm going to take a closer view here so we can hopefully get some town names here. It's just to the south of Ainsworth and Grace. It's heading towards Oakdale. Specifically, this rotation is going to be at an area that we are seeing some homes in this region as well. Thankfully, this is a broad rotation. It looks to be just north of the airport there near Plum Grove. Like I said, this is a tornado warning that's going to be in place for about the next 10 minutes here. So if we flip this back over to reflectivity, I can show you exactly where this storm is located. If we take a farther view, you can see this is in northeast Liberty County. That means for us here in Houston, we're seeing showers pushing through, and it's possible to see thunderstorms as we head through the evening. The big concern, though, right now is going to be that tornado warning in far northern Liberty County. You can see it's just to the south of Cleveland. And we're actually seeing a little inflow notch right here. That means the thunderstorm is a healthy thunderstorm. It's pulling in air as it moves to the north and the east. So as it does, it's going to be pushing through Oakdale, and it also has the possibility of producing some large hail. That tornado warning in place through 4 p.m. This deep purple color indicating if we do have any sort of tornado, you're not going to want to step outside to try to see it. This would be a rain-wrapped tornado as it continues to make its way to the northeast. Now, this cell has been strengthening and pulsing, which is why we are concerned about the possibility of a tornado. So let's talk about where it's heading, where it's gone. Anywhere from Oakdale just to the south of Ainsley, going to be seeing that system move through. If they do continue on with this tornado warning, which cells that produce tornado typically can drop several tornadoes, that would be pushing through Macedonia, Lum, Trinity River Estates, and Franklin within the next hour. But right now, where it's pushing through, you can see that very strong hook. We're going to get closer to see if we can get any of these street names to pop up on our map here. Having struggles getting anything to pop up when it comes to street names, but this is going to be just to the south of Ainsworth and Grace. This is in northern Liberty County. This is really going to be just to the east of the freeway there, where you can see north of Carter Settlement. So that deep purple color in the red, that's going to be the intense heavy downpour. We're going to flip this over back to velocity to show you the wind speeds inside of this cell, because that's going to show us the rotation that the National Weather Service has seen to trigger this tornado warning. If we flip this back over to velocity, this is storm relative velocity, you can see a very broad rotation, but a rotation nonetheless, and that's showing the possibility of a tornado. That's why we urge you, if you are within this red flashing area, the tornado warning zone, you need to head to an interior room of your home. That's going to be on the lowest level. You want to put as many walls between yourself and the outside as possible. For most homes, that's going to be an interior closet, a pantry, a laundry room, anything to put yourself away from the outside. We're going to check a few other parameters here, including shear, not showing any shear markers, which is certainly good news. It is showing, regardless of tornado, this is showing the potential for some very large hail within this system. That means you need to be taking cover if you're within this area. In fact, we're going to see the estimates on this potential for hail. I think it's going to be quite large. This is showing the potential for some pretty large hail, up to an inch or larger, which is yet another reason why you need to take this storm incredibly seriously. So pushing back to radar, you can see that hot pink color indicating heavy downpours here. This system is moving pretty quickly. If we put this in motion just over the last hour, you can see this cell started off as just a mere shower. It's been pushing its way to the northeast. This is the cell we're tracking, and it started to see that hook echo really about 30 minutes ago as it passed over the East Tex Freeway. In fact, if we pause this right now, you can see when we talk about the potential for a tornado, we look a lot for what I call funky looking appendages. Let me show you what I'm talking about. It's going to be this region right here. That would be the region, if we have a tornado, where the tornado would be ongoing. When it comes to this storm system, we've got a healthy flow of air into that system, and that's where we have the rotation. In fact, if we flip this back over to our velocity, you can see that's where we have that tight rotation there between the red and the green, showing winds going away from and towards the radar. So that's why we're on air right now, to let you know about this tornado warning in Liberty County until 4 o'clock, quickly racing its way to the northeast. Anthony, do we have recordings on how fast this potential system is moving?
Let me look for you. Also, the warning is only for 15 minutes, but they couldn't put the time
15 minutes.
So in theory, this is only 15 minutes, but the timing is 20 miles per hour.
20 miles per hour. So this storm moving to the northeast at 20 miles per hour. That's Chief Meteorologist Anthony Yanez getting the latest information from the National Weather Service. If we put a storm tracker on this, moving to the northeast at 20 miles per hour, we can show you exactly where it's expected to be. It's moving very quickly, and thankfully it's not moving through a particularly populated region, but there are folks who live here, which is why we are talking about this as the system continues to advance its way to the northeast at about 20 miles per hour. Right now, the core of that storm has the possibility of producing some large hail as well. And this is going to be something that we're tracking as we head into the afternoon. All of these showers are considered prefrontal. We've got a cold front pushing in, and that creates a lot of instability and energy. That's going to be the primary concern. I'm taking this out just a bit for anyone who may have just joined our coverage. To the south, we're tracking showers, isolated thunderstorms, but the main cell that we're concerned about, that's going to be in northern Liberty County. I'm going to zoom it back in just so you have perspective on where this tornado warning is located. It's just to the southeast of Cleveland here, and it is still showing signs of rotation, which is why the National Weather Service has issued a tornado warning on this. As a reminder, warning means take action now. Warning means you need to be moving into your safe place immediately as this tornado warning continues for about the next 5 to 10 minutes. Oakdale, you are in the heart of this. If you're in Oakdale, make sure you head into your safe place. When we talk about safe places, once again, that's going to be an interior room, lowest level, as many windows between your walls, between yourself and the outside as possible, as this system continues to push its way to the northeast at 20 miles per hour. Having a hard time getting very many roads out here, but as it continues, it's going to be advancing towards County Road 2252. That's just to the north of Loam and Macedonia as well. So this is the area we're watching. Oakdale, you're really going to be in the heart of this system pushing its way to the northeast. So that's going to be very close to areas just to the south of Oakdale. Like I said, heavy downpours ongoing with this system, which means you don't want to step outside and try to see if you can see a tornado. If there is a tornado out there, it would be considered a rain-wrapped tornado. That is not one you can see. So let's show you some of our radar tools to determine where the greatest risk is, but anywhere within this tornado warning needs to be taking it extremely seriously. If we flip this back over, we just got a brand new scan here, and it's still showing some of that rotation here. That's the rotation we've been tracking. However, it is looking pretty broad. That's certainly good news when we're talking about rotation. I think when we show the reds and the greens, it can get a bit confusing. So as a reminder, that red is going to be winds moving away from our radar. Radar is located in League City. The green is winds moving towards the radar. So this is why we're seeing the potential for rotation just to the south and to the west of Oakdale there. As for some other parameters we can check, we often talk about wind shear. That's going to be the changing of winds and magnitude as we go further up with height. This is showing some slight wind shear being detected just to the south of Oakdale here. So that is something we're certainly keeping an eye on. That's a sign that shows the possibility of either a tornado or a landspout as the system moves just to the south of Oakdale. Hail swath also showing the potential for some significant hail, which is why we're stressing inside as many walls between yourself and the outside. When we're talking about hail, the potential for a tornado, heavy downpours, a car is not where you're going to want to be. You're going to want to be inside, away from the windows, as many walls between yourself and the outside as possible. By the way, this system also easily putting down over an inch of rain, which means we could be seeing some light road flooding. Otherwise, the primary concern here, of course, is going to be the potential for a tornado. We've now been on air for about 10 minutes, which means we've likely got another 5 minutes on this tornado warning. Once again, warning means act now. This tornado warning in place for the next 5 minutes or so, including Oakdale. This is for northern portions of Liberty County for a thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado. Now, thankfully, the storm is moving rather quick. So if you are within this warning zone, hunker down. It's the safest thing to do. It's currently making its way to the northeast at about 20 miles per hour. You can see the core of this storm, that hot pink color, that's already exited the warning zone. That's why we're mainly concerned about this area right here. That's just to the south of Oakdale, and that's where we've seen primarily most of our rotation. That's going to continue to push its way to the north and to the east. I would be surprised if the National Weather Service reissues this tornado warning. But if they do reissue this, it's going to be moving just to the north of Macedonia and Lum. You're also going to see it push across County Road 2252 as it does. As a reminder, this is just one thunderstorm we're tracking. We're also tracking several showers ahead of this storm and a thunderstorm that's just starting to get going near the Woodlands here. You can see that hot pink and red color. That's going to be indicating heavy downpours. Any one of these thunderstorms can quickly pulse up because we have ample moisture and we also have a lot of instability ahead of that cold front moving in. So let's take a closer look at that storm we're watching just to the south of Oakdale. That's going to be the primary threat. You can see it's north of Midway Road there. The system moving to the northeast at 20 miles per hour just between Oakdale and Carter Settlement. If you're in this area, we urge you, please take cover. This is the potential for a tornado, which is why you need to be heading indoors into a sturdy shelter. One thing that I like to say is if you don't have a sturdy shelter, you're going to want to go to the most secure building you can. For a lot of locations, that actually can be a local Walmart because they've got concrete walls. But at this point, it looks like the National Weather Service does still have that tornado warning in place just to the south of Oakdale. If we flip this over to our velocity, this is showing the rotation on our winds. It is still showing the potential for a tornado with that rotation, but it's been broadening, which is really good news when it comes to the potential for a tornado. Regardless if this is showing encouraging news, you do need to be staying in your safe place. In fact, the National Weather Service has just reissued this tornado warning. You can see the polygon now is much bigger. In fact, I'm going to get closer to this so I can give you more information. The National Weather Service issuing this tornado warning. Still going to be until 4 o'clock, but the big change is that it's going to be for a larger area. The reason why they've likely done this is because the core of this storm system has pushed out of the original polygon. So let's talk about some new locations that are inside this tornado warned zone. That's going to be Lum. That's going to be Macedonia. We've been talking about these locations, and if you are hearing your town name, you need to be acting immediately. Head into your safe spot. That's an interior room on the lowest level of your home. For most locations, that's going to be an interior closet, a pantry, a laundry room. You want to put as many walls between yourself and the outside as possible and try to be on the lowest level. So let's talk about where this is heading, because if this continues, this is going to be pushing towards Jacob Settlement, Franklin, Grand Cane, Trinity River Lake Estates. That says Sam Houston as well, but it's not talking about the school, Clark. So this is what we're tracking as this system continues to move to the northeast at 20 miles per hour. Once again, this is going to be in northern Liberty County. So let's check up on our shear marker again. This is going to tell us if this system is showing a history of those winds rapidly changing in speed. Oakdale, you're very much still in the thick of this. If you're in Oakdale, make sure you are staying in your safe place until we say the threat is lifted. If we switch this over to shear, which is going to show us the potential for some rotation, this is showing that rotation, not a very strong signature here, but it's going to be just to the north of Carter Settlement, near where Field Road reaches Midway Road. We're actually getting a new scan in just now, and it's not showing that rotation very much anymore. So encouraging news there, but still, we've got that rotation still pretty strong, pushing its way into that new polygon. So Lum, Macedonia, you are in the path of this potential tornado. Make sure you're heading into your safe spot as this races to the northeast at 20 miles per hour. We're going to put this in motion over the last hour, and you can see this system is moving pretty quickly. In fact, it pushed its way across the East Tex Freeway there, and as it did, that's when we started to see the strengthening. We started to see a little hook echo. That's going to be that kind of bow and arrow like shape, and that's continuing to advance its way off towards the east. So that's what we're tracking as it makes its way just to the north of Hardin, pushing its way across northern central Liberty County. That tornado warning is going to be in effect until 4 o'clock. This is bringing with it heavy downpours, a few lightning strikes, but most concerning is going to be that rotation that we're tracking. And for more on this tornado warning, we want to bring in our very own Chief Meteorologist, Anthony Yanes.
Yeah, Caroline, I just wanted to go over a few things, give you a little bit of a break and be able to tag team this with you. Let me show you what's going on here on our radar. Let me show you what's happening. We'll start with our live storm tracker 2 radar. So you have actually 2 different tornado warnings that are in effect right here. So this one's going to expire in about 8 minutes, and then it starts to move out of our viewing area. So a couple of things to realize with this. When you put in the velocity, and again, what you're looking at is the twisting winds. And so this is the area where if there is a tornado, it would be right here, because what you have is the winds that are going inbound and outbound, and they're spinning between Oakdale and Carter Settlement. And so what you have when you look at just the past hour or so, as you move this very slowly off here to the east, there's that hook. Caroline mentioned those weird looking appendages. Whenever you have this hook that's moving in, what you have is that inflow, and there's where your tornado would be. And so we're following along very slowly where this tornado, its radar indicated where it would be, and it's continuing to push off here to the east. So I really wanted to slow that down for you and show you what it looked like really over the past half hour. So when we look at the track of this is where it's headed. And so you have Cleveland here at 409 back when it was in that area, but now it's continuing to push off here to the east. And so we're following this area right where this tornado would be as it continues to push off here to the northeast at 17 miles per hour. And so a couple of other things that we're watching with this here, you can see where you have Oakdale and Carter Settlement. And so what you've got is simply the heavy rain that's coming down, but you start to see the twisting wind begin to move on in just the past several minutes. And so you've got that going on here. And so this is what we're tracking for you with this storm. Okay, I want to show you a couple of different things. I want to widen out for you. And again, what I wanted to do was just to show you a little different look from what Caroline was showing you and show you the motion of this as it continues to push off here to the northeast at 17 miles per hour. And so that's what we have with this thunderstorm. And so we continue to track this. I just wanted to show you a little different look because I know Caroline's been really analyzing this very well and what's happening. But I wanted to zoom in and show you that the areas that are a big concern for right now are the cities of Loom, Macedonia, Midway Road as this pushes on through. Once we get to about this point, it really starts to move out of our southeast Texas viewing area. But this is what we're watching for cities. And just like Caroline, I tried to zoom in and see if I could get some city names to show up. They just didn't show up. You can see there are streets here. They just didn't show up. But this is the area right around Midway Road that's a big concern for right now. I wanted to widen this out for you. This is the only thing going on right here. We've got a few scattered showers throughout southeast Texas. We have the front that's going to be moving through later on this evening. But this is the current concern for right now. I'm going to head this back over to Caroline. I've got to change a couple of things here. And then I'll be back with you in just a little bit.
And we're actually getting new information from the National Weather Service. They're actually issuing this tornado warning until 4:15. So if you're in Macedonia, if you're in Loom, make sure you stay in your safe place until at least 4:15 for this tornado warned storm. So let's talk about it as it continues to push its way to the north and to the east. We're going to pause this coverage. Pause this radar loop as it continues to move north and east, but rest assured this system still rapidly pushing to the north and the east. Right now, it's actually not even showing any lightning strikes, which I consider a very good sign. When you look at electricity, that's a good measurement of how strong a system is, and it could be a sign that it's weakening. But regardless, that tornado warning in place until 4:15, which is why we're telling folks stay in your safe place. You can see that deep purple color. That's going to be the heart of the storm. That's going to be where we have the potential of seeing a hail core as it pushes overhead. Yet another reason why you want to be staying away from any windows. But we're also tracking that rotation just to the north of Carter Settlement and continuing to work its way to the northeast. Macedonia, Lum, you're going to be in those locations that are going to start to see the rain pick up here within the next several minutes, and then it's going to be very heavy before it moves on. Now, thankfully, this system is moving very quick. So yes, we're telling you to stay put, but you're not going to have to stay put for long. So I want to address the 3 different polygons. The reason why this has happened is the National Weather Service issued it until 4. They meant to put until 4:15. But here's what's interesting. The new polygon that they've drawn, they actually drew it a little bit bigger. And that's because when we're tracking thunderstorms like this, it's possible for the core of the storm to split, which means we would start to track 2 different thunderstorms. And when you look at those thunderstorms, typically the right mover can be a little stronger, which is likely why they included all the way down to nearly Miriam and Moss Hill. That's where they expanded this coverage down. So let's talk about the new locations within that tornado warning. Jacob Settlement also going to include nearly to Miriam. So if this does continue to be issued, that's going to include locations like Tanner Settlement down towards Dowdell Settlement, Moss Hill as well. These are the locations that are going to be next. Big Thicket, you are also going to be on that list of towns. If I'm naming your town, that means you need to know where your safe spot is. If they do reissue this tornado warning, you need to act immediately because, as mentioned, tornado warning means there is an immediate threat for danger. So right now you can see the heart of this storm approaching Loom, approaching Macedonia, passing over Midway Road. If we flip this over and show you our velocity, it's still showing some rotation here, but let me show you one of the problems. This is coming from our radar all the way in League City, which means we're getting very far away from the radar at this point, which is why sometimes it might not look quite as impressive, even if we do have the potential of a tornado. Regardless, this is showing enough rotation that the National Weather Service keeping that tornado warn tag until at least 4:15. If we show you shear, this is going to not show any shear markers, an encouraging sign. Hail swath still showing with it the possibility of some hail within this system. Not only do we have the possibility of hail, but also just heavy downpours. If we look just over the last hour, this is showing several different spots, seeing well over an inch of rain. That's why roads might start to get a little bit muddy. If you are in the path of this, you want to be hunkering down and heading inside as this system keeps moving to the north and to the east. Anthony, what are you thinking about that box being expanded?
Well, you know, the thing is, it still has the shear, and so what you're seeing with this is it continues to spin, and so you're not seeing any kind of drawdown with these thunderstorms with this cell. And so what we're seeing is it continues to spin, and this has been around. We've been tracking this really since 3:30. It's been a half hour, and when you look at, okay, so here's what you're looking at with the cell. Here are the three different boxes here. When you switch over in the velocity, again, what the radar looks at is it's looking at the rain. That was the image I was just showing you. So that's the hail core. This would be the heavy rain surrounding it. But when I erase that and I just switch it over to looking at the twisting winds, what you're seeing here is this is where the twisting is. And this has been here consistently now for a half hour, and so this is almost getting to the point. This is considered a long track tornado. So when you zoom into where this is, the areas I'm concerned with, Carter Settlement, Loom, and Macedonia. Caroline's been doing an excellent job saying this is exactly where that spinning is if there is a tornado here. Again, this is radar indicated. We have not gotten an indication of any kind of ground truth to this. But this is what we're looking at with the radar, that there is a spinning in the radar. When you have a spinning in the radar like this that has somewhat of a couplet, then you're seeing basically the storm. So let's track this, where this is headed. And so when you look at the form here, I mean, Liberty is a pretty sparse area, so you're actually not getting any cities to show up with this, but it is moving east-northeast at 17 miles per hour. You have a hail size of a half inch hail, which is large. The BTI, that's what's called the Barron Tornado Index. That's a fairly low number. When you start to get into the 6s above, it goes all the way to 10. Basically, you're almost at that point guaranteeing there's a tornado. It doesn't mean there's not, but it's just a lower BTI, which means that spinning isn't incredibly strong at this point. But it doesn't have to be strong. It just has to spin just to see a tornado. So when you look a little closer to this, again, this is the area, some of the cities. Here's Midway Road, here's Loom, here's Green Road, here's Macedonia. This would be where the hail is coming down, and just off to the south, if there is a tornado, that spinning would be right around where Blackwell Road is. And so that's the big concern. If you're in Blackwell and a road anywhere around this area, don't go outside and say, oh, I want to be the person that verifies this. You got to get inside of that interior room away from windows, because if that tornado is going through, and also what you have when you have those lower BTIs, it's usually at the strongest, usually an EF1, which isn't going to just completely tear your house down, but it can break every window around your home, and it also can damage your roof. And if you're in an interior spot away from windows, you're in a safe spot. So that's where you want to be. And my concern right now, looking at this, is Blackwell Road. And then widening out just a little bit here, you could see one of those tornado warnings has been allowed to expire. So here we are at 4:01. That one's going to go away. This is the one that's in effect until 4:15, and it's going to be here as long as there is shear, as long as there is spinning. So widening out just a little bit, we're starting to see a little more strength with the thunderstorms that are now flowing into this from the woodlands up to the north, but this is everything that we're watching. And so I'm going to hand this back over to Caroline to take a look at some new data that she's looking at. Caroline.
Anthony, we've been getting in the latest scans, and those scans still showing with it enough rotation. We're expecting the Weather Service to be dropping that soon, and you are now watching our 4 o'clock newscast. We're going to continue to stay on this tornado warning until it expires, and then we'll resume our regular local news. But for now, our 4 o'clock newscast is going to be covering this tornado warning in north central Liberty County. You can see that tornado warning is for an area that thankfully is pretty rural, but it is impacting locations like Lum, Macedonia, Plum Creek, and it's continuing to quickly move its way to the northeast at 20 miles per hour. That deep purple color indicating a healthy storm, a strong storm, a storm capable of producing heavy downpours, small hail, in addition to a tornado. Now, I want to talk about just the structure that we're looking at, because earlier I talked a lot about inflow notches. I said a hook echo. We talked about a system that was pulling in air. We're no longer seeing this. So the actual structure of the storm isn't looking quite as healthy as it had before. Our velocity is still showing up, though. That is the rotation that we're concerned about. As we talk about velocity, just a reminder, this is going to be the winds that we're seeing relative to our radar. So the red is going away, the green is going towards. So this is the rotation that we're keeping an incredibly close eye on. That's just to the south and to the east of Macedonia. So if you have not yet, I urge you, now is your time to head into your safe spot, away from all windows, interior room, lowest level. We actually just got a brand new scan, and you can still see that rotation here. Also, that lighter green color that's showing up, that's going to be indicating stronger winds within this system. Certainly something that we're always tracking when it comes to tornado warnings. It's not just about the tornado, it's about the winds and what it can pick up. That's when we start to see some major problems. Blackwell Road, really just to the south of Macedonia, between Blackwell Road and Midway Road, Hightower Road, this is where we're starting to see some of that shear. Thankfully, it is showing just light shear, but regardless, that indicates the possibility of a tornado just to the south of Macedonia, where we were seeing that rotation. If this continues on the path, it's going to be making it to Jacobs Settlement, Franklin, Moss Hill here pretty soon. In fact, we can actually flip this back over to velocity radar, and this is going to be showing us where we're going to be headed as this continues to work its way to the north and to the east at about 20 miles per hour. So as we go 20 miles per hour, that's going to be taking it towards Moss Hill here very soon. And it's the most immediate threat is going to be Lum and Macedonia. Like we've mentioned, this is producing heavy downpours as well. So you don't want to step outside and try to see it, but you likely will be noticing as it passes overhead very intense conditions, gusty winds, and the potential for some small hail within this as well. We're going to talk a bit more about Franklin, because as this system gets closer, this is actually a much more populated area between Sam Houston and Franklin here. We're talking anywhere from Pine Ridge Drive to Jensen Drive, Trinity Drive. If you're in this neighborhood here just to the north of Franklin, please be moving into your safe spot. Make sure your entire family can fit, your kiddos, also your pets. If that means clearing out the pantry, making a bit of a mess, make a bit of a mess for this tornado warning. It's making its way to the northeast at 20 miles per hour. The storm is capable of producing a tornado as it quickly does approach to the north and to the east. Anthony, with this storm system, what have you been noticing about the cell structure?
The cell structure, it almost looks like it's falling apart.
Yes.
But when you look at the velocity, you look at the shear, and you look at the spinning, it's still there. And so what you're seeing is just the punch is coming in a different angle. So it's coming in straight from the west, so it almost looks like this is where you're getting your maximum spinning. And so when you look at a cell like that, that simply to me looks like it's turned into a hail cell. But look at this. And so here's the tornado warning, goes in effect until 4:15, but you're still seeing the spinning. So it's almost like you've heard of rain-wrapped tornadoes. You just don't see it. You hear what sounds like thousands of bees or a train track or a train going by. And that's almost what you're getting there. When you look at the radar, there's a little bit of a hook. So actually that just started to come in. It was just that, so we got a new scan here. So you had this punch. This wasn't there just a minute ago, and now you're starting to see that punch. And again, this is where you're seeing the shear. So the tornado warning is warranted. Again, it's radar indicated, but it looks pretty good here, right where Macedonia is. This is the big concern here from Loon. So you have a different placement. If you remember a couple minutes ago when I was on, and Caroline's been showing you, it went from here, now it's moving off to the northeast at 7 17 miles per hour. It almost looks like it's right on top of the city of Macedonia. And so that's the big concern here. This is where you would have the tornado. If you're watching us here in Liberty County, again, we stress so much. You just have to get away from windows. Get into your safe place because this is, if there is a tornado, this is exactly where it would be. Here's the outside of this. You zoom in, Black Bell Road, if you remember when I was on a couple minutes ago, this is where the spinning was. Now the spinning's here just a little bit, so it's just off to the south or right on top of Macedonia with the hail core just up here to the north. So there are a couple of cities here. So here's Lower Macedonia, zooming in just a little bit, but that's the only city that's coming up. So it really is for the city of Macedonia. Here's the laser, so I was just showing you that's where the radar is picking it up. It's moving off here to the east now at 17 miles per hour. So it's changed direction just a little bit, not drastic, but just a little bit. The hail size is a ½ inch. That BTI I was showing you just a couple of minutes ago has not changed. It's gone down a couple of tenths, but that's not really significant. But a BTI of 2.3 is on the lower scale of it sampling a tornado, but it's not zero. It would be, if I were to show you a BTI on these cells, like for example at Cleveland, it would be a 0. But where you're seeing the spinning, you do have the Barron Tornado Index at a 2.3. So very easily there could be one there. But if it were higher, you'd have a lot more confidence saying this is a tornado on the ground if it was a 6 or higher. But you're having enough shear in this area here, this is spinning right there, to say yes, it looks like it is a radar indicated tornado. That's why we have the tornado warning. It's in effect until 4:15. I just wanted to show you how this has progressed over the past hour, and you see it starting to push off. It's moving off in a northeasterly and an easterly direction. I sped it up a little bit here, but you can see there's a little notch coming in. There's your hook echo. There's a little hook right here. It was a little more impressive back here as far as getting that hook echo and that hook right there. But it's still there, even though you're not seeing as much of a hook in the current radar. What you are seeing is you're getting still that spin when we take away the rain and we put on just the shear. You're able to see what it looks like. So again, this is a serious situation for a tornado warning. Get into your safe place. We want to stress that there is 6 minutes left for this tornado warning, and then it's going to be reanalyzed to see if it continues to push off to the east in Liberty County. But it is almost to the point where it's moving out of our viewing area. Let's head back over to Caroline. She's been able to look at some other data here with this tornado warning. What do you have for us, Caroline?
Well, Anthony, it certainly is taking a more easterly motion here as opposed to the northeast at 20 that we were previously tracking. If we put this in motion over the last hour, you can see a lot of that activity has been pushing off towards the east. Now, another cell that I want to show you is going to be up towards the Woodlands. This one is the next one to also be watching. You can see this one starting to show a little bit of a hook echo signature. This is exactly with what we were tracking in Liberty County. Now, we haven't heard any word about this cell from the National Weather Service, but I do want to give you a heads up. If you're in Porter Heights, Chateau Woods, Woodloch, Shenandoah, Woodlands, Grogan's Mill, this is one we're certainly keeping an incredibly close eye on at the moment. You can see we've got hot pink colors showing up there. That's going to be indicating heavy downpours across this region. That's something we are continuing to track, putting as it keeps making its way to the north and the east. So when we're talking about systems like this, we have to continue watching for any other cells to start to show a similar situation here. So as we go over towards Liberty County, this is incredibly encouraging news. The National Weather Service now issuing a severe thunderstorm warning. They've issued it on top of that tornado warning, likely to replace the tornado warning when it expires at 4:15. That severe thunderstorm warning is going to be in place until 4:45, and that is wonderful news for what we're tracking as this system pushes into the northeast. Now, I do want to say, if you're within this severe thunderstorm warning, you want to be taking it very seriously. This system has had the potential of producing a tornado, and whenever a storm's produced a tornado, it's always possible it can produce another. So if you're in Trinity River Lakes Estates, Grand Cane, Big Thicket down through Moss Hill, Tanner Settlement, Dowdell Settlement, all the way down through Hull and Hardin, just be careful with this one. You want to treat it like a severe thunderstorm warning. The main concern there is going to be the possibility of 60-mile-per-hour winds and small hail, but tornado is always possible with a cell that has a history of producing tornadoes. So you can see that hot pink color is going to be the heart of the storm. And with this system, we're no longer seeing any significant rotation here as it continues to push its way to the north and to the east. That tornado warning once again in place until 4:15. That severe thunderstorm warning, that's going to be in place until 4:45. So we're going to continue tracking these storms as they're pushing their way off towards the east. Not only do we have these storms off in Liberty County, but we also have storms from the Woodlands all the way up through Conroe. You can see that storm up by the Woodlands is producing some very heavy downpours, frequent lightning strikes. That's going to be one that we're watching very close. But remember, with all of these storms, we can see the possibility of damaging wind as well. So take these storms seriously as they continue to work their way through. A quick reference point for what we're seeing here in the Houston area. All of these storms that we've been tracking, most of them are going to be north of Houston. Any of those showers and cells we've been tracking closer to the coast haven't been producing lightning, haven't been very strong. But as we go through the next several hours, our actual cold front is going to be pushing through the area. That's going to bring with it the potential of more thunderstorms as we head into this evening. So right now, the main concern is going to be within this tornado warned cell. That includes Jacob Settlement, Franklin. You're starting to see the rain pick up right now in Jacob Settlement in Franklin. As we go through the next 5 minutes, that rain is really going to be picking up. I do have good news though. If you're in Lum or Macedonia, you've only got a few more minutes until the heart of this cell has pushed past you. After that, you can take a sigh of relief. But remember, this is just round one. All of these are prefrontal showers and thunderstorms, which means we are anticipating more storms as we head through the overnight hours. But right now, we still do have that tornado warning at least in place for another minute. We also have our severe thunderstorm warning now in place for 31 minutes. And that's going to be for northern central Liberty County, just to the north of Hardin there. You can see a closer look is going to show heavy downpours, frequent lightning strikes with this cell as it continues to push its way off to the east at about 20 miles per hour. Otherwise, a lot of these cells that we're tracking really starting to pick up. And Anthony, these are going to continue to pick up in intensity as that cold front gets closer to our region.
Yes, and that's the big concern as we move throughout the rest of the evening, because what we're seeing with this cell is it really got out of hand quickly. It just got into an environment where you saw a rapid spin up. You saw it turn severe fairly quickly. I mean, it went from really just more of a heavy downpour to just really start up to become a strong thunderstorm. And so what we're seeing is this cell is starting to transition. And so we went gone from a tornado warning, which has now been allowed to expire, to a severe thunderstorm warning. And so what we're seeing now, instead of that rotation for tornado, the threat now is really large hail. And that's still a threat. You still could see half-inch size hail, but look at the difference here. Do you see how the green and the red aren't tight together anymore? There is still a little bit of shear, but it's not bumped up to each other. So that's a good sign. It's more spread. And so what you're seeing is a general shear, a general spin. And you see that with really any strong thunderstorm. What we had earlier was when it was bumped up right next to each other. And that's why you had the radar indicated tornado. You're just not seeing that with Macedonia anymore. But what you're seeing is still some strong winds out ahead of this and also some hail. So these would be all of the hail signatures that have now pushed off to the east of Macedonia. So here's Franklin, here's Job Settlement. And so you do have more of a transition to a hail coming down. By the way, I wanted to widen out just a little bit here. So this is the edge. This is actually where our signal ends. This is where Southeast Texas ends. This is the edge of Liberty County. And so you've got all of this hail in some spots here, some very heavy rain, 6 lightning strikes. And by the way, when we had the tornado signature with this, it was either 0 or 1 the entire time. Now that it's really lost a lot of that spin and the shear, now what you're seeing is more of an unstable storm. So you're getting storms with some heavy rain, some hail, and also now some lightning. 6 isn't a tremendous amount there, but now what you're seeing is this is looking back at the hail trail, if you will, from Macedonia Loom all the way out to Oakdale. And so this is where the cell is now, and what it's going to do is add on to this as it pushes closer to Franklin and Job Settlement. So the good news news is we've lost that tornado signature. The bad news is we now have to go back and see what kind of reports there are, if there actually was a tornado on the ground, and see what kind of damage there was. So that's an if, because so far everything we've been tracking has been radar indicated, which means the radar is telling a story, but that story may be different than actually what's happening on the ground. But now we're seeing some hail that's coming on down. And so this is what it looks like right now. Heavy rain now moving into Franklin, Jacob Settlement. Here are the hail cells. And by the way, these don't look as intense as they looked just 15 minutes ago. So some good news here. You do have the severe thunderstorm warning that is in effect for another half hour. But the good news is that it looks like this cell, as it's starting to push off to the east, has lost a little bit of its intensity. Not a lot. You still have the purple color here, which are hail signatures, but you're just seeing a little bit of a difference here. I wanted to go back, and again, I wanted to slow this down. I'm going minute by minute here over the past half hour. So there's your hook echo. There's the potential of where the tornado is, and you have this entire time, you at least have a little bit of a hook. At time it fills in. This is where it looked more radar indicated and filled in, more rain wrapped. And now as it's started to push off to the east, you see how it's flattened out. So now what you're getting is more simply a hailstorm than anything else. But what we had was a lot of spin in the atmosphere. Let me move my hand so do you see how that's the notch? We talk about hook echoes and that notch, and so you have that all the way up until about 4 o'clock. Once you get to 4, there it is again, it starts to flatten out a little bit, and so now you basically just have a hailstorm coming on down. I'll end with this, and we'll head back over to Caroline. We're starting to see more intensity from the woodlands in Montgomery County here of some stronger thunderstorms. Look at 119 lightning strikes. There were 6 with the severe thunderstorm warning. There's 122 when you just look at this area here, so you're actually getting more intensity here. So that's a concern. Of course, lightning is a dangerous thing on its own, but we're still waiting on that front, and that front's going to be moving through in the next several hours. Let's head over to Caroline now, who's been analyzing some new data here with this thunderstorm. Caroline.
And Anthony, I want to talk about those storms that we've been watching to the north, the ones that you were talking about getting more electric, because we have been getting reports of a pretty gnarly looking shelf cloud up near Spring Cypress, and that's showing with it Spring just south of Woodloch, and that means this system is showing the potential of some rotation. So with any of these thunderstorms, now that we have had a tornado warning, we always like to play it safe. We're going to be checking everything. We're going to be checking the velocity on this one as well to see if we have any rotation. Now, as we look at this, you can see maybe a little bit of broad rotation by Sleepy Hollow. Thankfully, not showing anything very strong. Even checking storm velocity, not showing anything very strong. That is certainly good news, and this is going to be something we're tracking as we see a lot of these thunderstorms start to pulse up. So I want to go over those thunderstorms, starting with the one just to the south of Lake Conroe here. This system also going to be pushing its way quickly towards the east at about 20 miles per hour. In fact, we can take a storm track on this. This is going to get to April Sound Country Club at 4:25. This is not considered a severe thunderstorm, but it certainly is a stronger thunderstorm capable of producing some gusty winds. So if you're at April Sound Country Club, heads up, this system pushing in your direction here incredibly soon. This is going to be just on the south side of Lake Conroe here. You can see that hot pink color, that's where we have the heaviest of the rainfall. And this is going to be impacting folks who are starting to head home from work. We're talking areas like the North Freeway and also the East Tex Freeway. Look at this as we're talking. The National Weather Service now issuing a special weather statement that's shown here with this white box. That means it's not quite a severe thunderstorm warning, but the National Weather Service wanted to put an alert on it because this is considered a strong thunderstorm. Now, this strong thunderstorm has been issued because it's capable of producing winds up to 40 miles per hour. And they say it's capable of producing a land spout, which is a very weak tornado. It's located near Chateau Woods, near Spring, moving to the east at 20. So it's interesting to see that the National Weather Service no longer just warning these for the possibility of damaging winds. They're now tagging all of these with the possibilities of a land spout. That is the exact same warning that we had on the cell in Liberty before they decided to upgrade it to a tornado warning. That means even though this is a strong weather statement, I would still take this extremely extremely seriously if you're in Porter Heights, if you're in New Caney. This does include New Caney High School. If this is able to continue and it keeps strengthening, this is going to be moving into a pretty populated area. We're talking Roman Forest all the way over towards Patton Village, Plum Grove. Let's put a storm tracker on this as it makes its way to the east at about 20 miles per hour. And as it does, it's going to be impacting areas like Roman Forest and continuing to dive its way off towards the east. So this is the cell we're talking about right now, just to the east of Splendora here. As it makes its way to the east, it'll be interesting to see how this system continues to develop. We're also tracking a new thunderstorm that's starting to develop out near Tomball, but right now our severe thunderstorm warning, that's going to be out in Liberty County. That's going to be for this cell, which has been falling apart, but still producing some pretty hefty downpours just to the north of Hardin. This one getting a lot of attention early on when it was a tornado warning, pushing into Franklin, Jacob Settlement. Look at that, Lum and Macedonia. If you've been in your safe spot, you can finally have a bit of a break as this storm system has moved past you. However, know that more storms are going to be possible as we head into the afternoon and the early evening. That's as our cold front finally races its way across the area. So we've got our severe thunderstorm warning in Liberty County. We've also got our special weather statement across areas just to the east of Shenandoah, really between the North Freeway and the East Tex Freeway. If this continues on this motion, it's going to be impacting Roman Forest here very soon, Splendora, also locations like New Caney, Kiefer. These are the spots that are going to start to see that intense thunderstorm move in. But for now, the locations that are seeing the thick of it, that's going to be Porter Heights, just to the east of Sleepy Hollow. In fact, that hot pink color, that's where we're seeing the heaviest within this thunderstorm as it makes its way to the east at 20 miles per hour. So once again, we have our severe thunderstorm warning. That's in Liberty County. We also have our special weather statement for a very strong thunderstorm just to the east of Splendora there. We're also tracking just to the south of Lake Conroe. This thunderstorm starting to flare up just about 10 minutes ago, only producing 2 lightning strikes. Now it's up to 5, and that's the trend where we can see these storms really pulse up and get out of control. Right now, we're also seeing this storm just to the south of Tomball near Klein. This is starting to produce much more lightning strikes than previously, which is why that is another one to watch. Anthony, so many different storms that we're tracking right now.
And each cell is unique in its own right, because we had one that was bringing in tornadoes, one that was bringing in hail, and now what you're seeing is a lot of lightning and heavy rain in some spots. And so I wanted to start with the little wide shot to show you what we're watching for you this afternoon. So first of all, 110 lightning strikes in just the past couple of minutes. This is where you have the severe thunderstorm warning that's in effect, and it's for hail. You still have these hail signatures here, and this is lasting until 4:45. This is the edge of our viewing area. So here's Hardin, here's DeSeta, and you're almost seeing a little bit of a curve off here to the southeast, but these are moving off to the east. So we've talked plenty about this. This was the cell that did have the potential tornado with that. In fact, the past hour, I've been showing this, and so there's the movement of this with the tornado warning, and it's now shifted to a severe thunderstorm warning. So here's the other area here where we have 70 lightning strikes, and what you've got is some really heavy rain. You have some hail signatures. You have 70 lightning strikes that are just here in this one spot. This is right on top of Lyric Road. Here's Sleepy Hollow. It's starting to move out of Chateau Woods. It's moving off in an easterly direction. So if you're in Porter Heights, this is headed straight towards you. Here's Old Houston Road, and so these thunderstorms are moving right toward you. So 71 lightning strikes. The heart of this, from Lyric Road off to the south, from the west of Sleepy Hollow, this is where you have that hail signature. So look, you see how it's a little darker color there? So that's getting to be a little larger hail, to where you're looking at a quarter-size hail. It's not out of the question. Sometimes it shows up as golf ball size hail. And so I wanted to do a little street level view for you. Here's Calhoun Road, McGregor, Walker Road, extending off to the east, and then Moorhead. So this is all of the area. Walker's the one that would have the largest hail with this. And so this is a concern. Really heavy rain, hail, and of course 43 lightning strikes in just this one area that I'm zoomed into right here. Moving off to the west, The showers here from Alden Ridge through the Woodlands all the way to Northampton, not as intense, but the tail end of this from Tomball off to the south, you do have a handful of lightning strikes. And so what's happening is this cell is taking all of the instability, so it's almost like the big brother is getting all the strength here, and it's weakened this part. But once you get out of that influence, this area in Tomball is getting a little stronger, and so we've got to pay close attention to that as this all pushes off to the east. So wanted to widen out and also show you there's a few cells that are just, these are more isolated from Willis all the way out to Panorama Village. Here's Montgomery, but look how impressive these are, especially this one in Montgomery. You're having more hail signatures, and so many times we talk about how these cells, as a cold front moves through, temperatures, our high temperatures so far today has been 74 degrees. So we're in the mid 70s. It's a warm, humid air mass. A cold front's going to be pushing through, and it mixes in with that cooler, dry air. And right where that area meets, you have the potential to see some really strong thunderstorms. And in the case for today, we had the example of getting actually the potential of a tornado or a radar indicated tornado. Cypress, you have a couple of strong cells, no lightning here, but you do have these moving toward Tomball and also moving toward Spring. Heavy rain here, more isolated from Hempstead into Sealy, so a little smaller, but still bringing in some heavy rain. Along the coastline, no lightning with this, and so it's simply just showers. Some heavy rain from Alvin, Texas City that extends through Angleton all the way off to the south of Sweeney, but there's quite a bit going on with our radar. Wide shot in motion. You see there's the tornado warning. There's the severe thunderstorm warning that we have right now. But trailing behind us, we're going to have to watch this very carefully because these are getting more intense, bringing in some hail, bringing in the 100+ lightning strikes. South of I-10, you're fine for right now, but we are waiting on that front that is going to be moving through in the next several hours. Okay, let's take a look at what's happening with Caroline. I know you've been analyzing some different things with this.
And we've been checking in with the Weather Service as well, and they are still watching that storm in Liberty County. It still does have the tag for a potential tornado. So I do want to stress, if you're out there in Liberty County, I know we haven't been talking about it quite as much, but we've seen images of potential damage out across Liberty County. So it did have a potential tornado, or at least very damaging winds. So if you're within this severe thunderstorm warning, that's in west central Liberty County, do take it seriously. It's capable of producing 60-mile-per-hour winds. A tornado can't be ruled out. That includes Big Thicket down through Moss Hill, Jacob Settlement, Franklin. Really, the heart of this storm is going to be where you see the warmer colors. Whenever we have warmer colors, that's more intensity on our radar here. But that's going to be pushing through Franklin, Jacob Settlement, pushing into Moss Hill and Miriam here very soon. I want to talk about our rotation here because we are still watching for rotation. Just because a tornado warning has been dropped doesn't mean it won't be reissued. In fact, storms tend to have a history of recycling and dropping more tornado warnings once they've dropped one before. Thankfully here, not seeing any tight rotation. And this is something we're watching not just for this cell, but for any of our thunderstorms. In fact, we've got one more system I want to talk about before we talk more about our 4 o'clock newscast. But the National Weather Service has now issued a brand new special weather statement just to the south of Northampton and the Preserve. This is for a storm that has the possibility of producing 40-mile-per-hour winds. Spring Terrace down towards Bridgestone, Dove Meadows, this storm moving to the east at 40 miles per hour. So they're moving fast. They're capable of producing gusty winds, and they're bringing with it heavy downpours as well. Right now, we've got that severe thunderstorm warning, 2 special weather statements, and we're going to continue to track these as they move their way off towards the east. So that's the broad look at what we're looking at. But these aren't the only thunderstorms we're tracking. In fact, let's analyze some of these thunderstorms that they've just issued that special weather statement, because that does include spring, and our special weather statement is going to be in place until 5 o'clock. So that does include portions of far northern Harris County here, and that's going to include areas like Spring, also the North Freeway, the Hardy Toll Road. I mean, there's a lot of locations within this area that are going to start to see a stronger thunderstorm pushing in. As mentioned, a special weather statement that's likely not going to trigger an alert on your phone because it's not a severe thunderstorm warning, but it's a strong storm nonetheless. As it pushes in, it's going to be loud. It's producing several lightning strikes. It's going to produce a heavy downpour and the possibility of 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts. So right now, The areas that are going to be within this soon: Dove Meadows, Covington Bridge, Bainbridge Estates, Bridgestone. Eventually, very soon, it's going to be making its way into the North Freeway as well. So I want to put some storm trackers out here because we've got several different spots that we're actively tracking as they push their way off towards the east. Starting with this first cell that we're watching, if we take off the radar here, we can show you exactly what we're tracking. The core of this storm as it pushes its way to the east at 20 miles per hour. It's going to make it to the Six Flags Splashdown by 4:53, Spring High School 4:55, Bush Intercontinental Airport, if it's able to hold together, by 5:19. That's what this is showing as it continues to push its way off towards the east. That's something we're certainly tracking. The other storm we've been watching that's been continuing to strengthen, this is the one that's pushing towards the East Tex Freeway, also moving towards the east at about 20 miles per hour. Thankfully, it's moving through, but unfortunately, as it does, it's packing quite a punch. If we put this in motion over the next hour or so, we can expect it to get to New Caney High School at 4:50. So that is going to be impacting the East Tex Freeway. So a lot of folks hitting the roads right now, and this is going to be causing a lot of slowed traffic. I do want to show you we're starting to see some more showers develop behind this system as well. Cypress down towards Sealy. This is as our cold front is going to start to push into the area, and ahead of it we're going to see more instability. Most of this has been to our northeast, but everywhere has the potential of seeing these thunderstorms. Right now, we've got that severe thunderstorm warning in west central Liberty County. We've also got 2 special weather statements for the possibility of 40-mile-per-hour winds. Now, when we talk about 40 to 60-mile-per-hour winds, one thing you should think about is the potential for power outages. That means it's a good time to make sure your phone is charged and make sure you know how you can get weather information. Here at KPRC, you can always watch us live. Click2Houston.com/watch live. That's our plus stream, and our weather team is always hopping on during any breaking weather, and that's what we're going to be doing as the storms continue to push its way through. So as we put this in motion over the last hour, you can see these storms quickly have been pulsing up from Spring over towards Roman Forest, all of them propagating off to the east. And as they have been moving east, they have been producing some frequent lightning strikes. One thing to watch with this storm just to the east of Tomball there is once again that small hook-like feature. This is something we've seen with several of these thunderstorms, and it's going to be something that's going to be something to watch because it is producing a shelf cloud. That is something that we see with a lot of severe weather, which means it's attempting to drop a funnel. Unfortunately, that's something we're going to be monitoring for the possibility of any rotation. You can see velocity is showing some light rotation here, the greens and the reds, and that's where we can start to talk about the potential for rotation. But for now, this is just producing the potential for 40-mile-per-hour winds. We're going to keep covering these storms as they continue to race their way off towards the east. And as our cold front pushes into the area, stay with us. We'll be right back if anything breaks. Until then, we'll see you in just a few minutes.